Hello, everyone. I am back. Welcome to Creativity Connects with Mikki Wilson. This is a creative collective podcast where we go beyond the brand and really dive deeper into the real journeys behind women in business. So, I am Mikki. I am your host. I'm also a creative collective team member, and I am the CEO and founder of Dot Connector Consulting. People know me as the dot connector. And what does that really mean? It means that I bring women together, I create and hold spaces for real connections, and I help build collaborative relationships that move women forward together. A creative collective is a business support program that provides modern resources, strategy, and community for small businesses and creators. Through this podcast, we are highlighting the incredible women in our network and our membership because we want to share their stories, their super relatable stories. We want to dive into the messy middles of business, and we want to spotlight the meaningful moments that rarely get seen but totally deserve to be celebrated. So today, I'm super excited to be talking to Lauren Carter Reilly. I can't wait for you to hear her story, but we met, I'm going to say it's like a little bit more than a month ago.
Probably, yeah.
And we just vibed. We were at a surprise, networking event, awards dinner together. But I just liked your energy. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So thank you for being here in the space today.
Thank you for having me. I love to yap, and here's just another excuse to do it.
Oh, this is going to be good, people. Buckle up your seatbelts. You know, when it starts like this, you got two yappers. Let me tell you a little bit about my friend Lauren. Lauren Carter Reilly is a writer, an artist, and what she calls a classically trained shapeshifter. Tap in, people. I told you. As the creator behind Glamour Possum and the author of the wonderful Lady B series, Lauren weaves together humor, heart, and the strange magic of everyday life. Strange magic it is indeed, Lauren.
Especially now.
She's also a contributing fiction writer for Sought magazine, and through all her creative work, Lauren invites people into worlds that are playful, raw, and deeply human. So today, we're digging into the story behind her voice, her journey, and the ways she brings imagination and authenticity to everything she touches. I love the classically trained shapeshifter. Let me tell you, as a woman that talks to women about how they show up in rooms and introduce themselves, I'm a fan of a good title.
That's all it is some days. You know, you got to figure out who you have to be when you go in the room.
Look,
Yeah.
we're dropping gems
There you
already.
go.
I'm here for it, Lauren. Let's go. Let's go. The way I love to start is before we dive into the creative stuff, the work, and all the things that lead up to the journey and make you who you are, I like to show people who the woman behind the business is, right? So, can you tell us a little bit about your experience, your experiences, your values? What has shaped the woman, the artist, the writer that you are today?
Yeah. I've basically been a storyteller, I'll say, since I was really young. Even before I knew how to write, I realized that I would like make picture books of stories, and essentially what I was doing was an early form of like storyboarding, which a lot of like comic books will do.
Yep.
Or, you know, you do in different movies where you plan out how you're going to shoot the scene or how you're going to frame things.
Yeah.
And then I also grew up in a family where there's just a lot of eclectic people. And my mom's family especially, and my mom in particularly, they're all creatives. My mom I call myself a Jane of all trades, but it's really Charlotte. She's a photographer. She is a business manager. She was an artist. She was an illustrator. And she's been a dancer. She's an amazing cook. She's also like just everything to everybody. She's like Snow White. We always had animals growing up, and I grew up in this very strange part of Chester County, Pennsylvania, where, you know, it was a really rural place, but we sort of attracted all these people, and my mom would just bring all of these different people from different walks of life into our life. And so I grew up really getting a look at the world that I think a lot of kids don't often get. And you grow up excited about where other people come from. And it's not a scary thing. It's a, wow, what's that like? Or, oh my God, you grew up that way, or that's your religion, or that's your experience. Like, what's that like? And that's still one of my favorite questions to ask people is, what's that about? Or like, how'd you start that? Or what is that like? How was that for you? And so growing up kind of in a rural area, I didn't have a lot of access to the arts. So I went to boarding school and went to Mercersburg Academy, go Blue Storm. And that's an international high school. So again, getting to experience a lot of different cultures. And sometimes when you're a teenager and hormonal and you're really defensive about the way you grew up, you're not always like aware of how much you're learning.
Right.
So really got to do a lot of theater there. And that's sort of where I have my strongest hold. And I thought I was going to be an actor. I still am, but like the traditional idea of what an actor is.
Right.
Like you live in a major city and you go on auditions and you have an agent, a manager, and like all that other stuff. So with that, I didn't really create like things that I didn't have a script for when I was younger. So I was very good at like following directions. And I didn't really value kind of the ideas that I had at the time when I was younger.
Yeah.
Because as an actor, you're supposed to be a canvas. You're supposed to embody what your director is telling you or the person in charge is telling you. So I got really good at listening. I didn't get very good at like speaking up though and kind of raising my hand and being like, oh, well, what about this? Or I have a different idea.
Yes.
Or I think a lot of people in charge in the arts, especially like directors and maybe people who are higher up, are not great collaborators. They're good at giving direction, but they're not so good at thinking like maybe this person has an idea.
Yeah.
And I think that it's a struggle to get there anyway. So they're very defensive about their own opinions. So I got really good at following direction. And then sometimes I would be like, well, no, I'm not going to do that. And then you become, especially as a woman, you know, oh, she's difficult to work with. Oh, she's so opinionated. Yes. She's difficult, you know.
Yes.
Went into college with that. My college doesn't exist anymore. I went to the University of the Arts, which last year just laid a big old egg.
Oh,
and was like, hey, so we let our charter run out. And like, all those people that are going to come here next year, sorry.
Oh, wow. Okay. We're in transition, people.
If you want to go down that rabbit hole, it's a whole separate thing. But I got to spend 4 years, well, 8 out of college, 4 in college in Philadelphia.
Nice.
I love Philly.
Look, okay, I knew we were going to be best friends for a reason. You do not know that I went to Temple University.
Wait, really?
Yeah, I didn't get to graduate from there. That's a whole other story that we could talk about along with your university.
Listen, different journeys intersecting.
My residence hall doesn't exist anymore. But
your college still exists.
I'm just laughing when you're talking about growing up in that rural space. I remember I went to Ambler by accident before I went into downtown
If you drive an
Philly.
hour outside of Philadelphia, you're in Kentucky.
Totally different place.
Pennsyltucky is the place that I grew up, like what it was called. And it's real rural.
No, it's very, very different. I was I don't think this is the campus that I'm supposed to be at.
If you're like, I'm lost.
Yeah. So, I get this. This is great. Oh, this is great.
But I love Philly. I love the people. I love the culture. It was a really exciting theater scene when I was there. And people were really trying to come up with different ideas and trying to tell their own stories. And I didn't really have a theater program that was conducive for that. It was it was a hodgepodge. We had a lot of people leaving in the middle of training. We had a lot of people who were getting fired. We had a lot of people we had a woman come in who hired a lot of people she knew from New York. And they were like, they were New York people, you know, and they're, oh, well, you know, I'm so methodly trained in this method.
Yes, bring it.
And they're not really interested in like who you are as a person.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was watching like a lot of my colleagues who I was like, oh, if anyone's going to make it, it's going to be them. Be like, oh, well, you're not doing this the way you're supposed to. You know, as a working artist, you know, this. And I got told a lot the sort of life that I could be expected to live, and I didn't like it. And then I had one teacher who, Johnny Hobbs, who's this amazing actor, and he got to be directed by him. His favorite saying was, "It ain't that deep." And he was this like Oh my God, he was amazing. He was this like big, tall black guy. He was a tap dancer. He had been in the theater scene since like the 70s. And he would just sit there and be like, hey, it ain't that deep. And sometimes I still have to remind myself that and being like,
such a good slogan.
especially when you're like in the hole, being like, everything's going wrong.
It's really not that deep.
It ain't that deep.
Yeah.
And I got to work with him in a professional setting, which was great. Got to do historical reenactment stuff with him, which was great, about Philly history. And I worked at Cliveden, and it was working as a historical reenactor at a time in Philly from like 2015 to 2018.
That's cool.
It was really cool. But I graduated, and I was like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I can talk a lot about Alexander technique and Stanislavski and Chekhov and Brecht, but I don't know what I'm doing. And I wasn't really prepared to like look at myself as a product or as a business or what it takes to, you get one semester of business of theater, which basically teaches you how to file your taxes.
I find this a lot in the arts, actually, across the whole spectrum. It's very fascinating.
I was like, wait, what am I? How do I live?
How do I go out and do this thing?
Yeah, and it was basically like, you were told, well, it's going to be really hard and you're competing against everybody that you're friends with and you can never turn off and you can never be authentic because people might not like it. You're going to miss all of these life events for your friends and your family. You might never find a partner. You might never have children. You're going to live off of cigarettes. But that's the work.
This sounds amazing.
It was like, and to hear all of that at like, graduating at 22, 23, and then being like, I picked this life and now I don't know if I can do anything else.
Right.
And I think a lot of artists, they pick their discipline and they're like, I don't know how to branch out. I can't branch out.
Right.
This is the work.
And then you feel stuck, I'm sure, because there's a side of it. It's like, I invested so much time, energy, and like money into this.
However, during that business of theater class, I had a teacher, Neil Hartley, who told us that we had to come up with a business plan of like different productions that we would do or different things that we would do in the industry. And I started making pitches for different shows, potentially that I could like copyright and sell and make money off of. And that's where Glamour Possum came from, because that was the name of like my fictional production company.
Nice. Okay.
And he comes to me and he goes, you need to sit on some of these ideas because these are like really good.
Ooh, okay.
And I don't remember, one of them was like a rock opera about Aleister Crowley. One of them was like a one-woman show about all the first ladies.
Okay.
And then I don't remember what the third one was, but he was like, this is stuff that you could take to a producer, potentially. And I was at like 23, like, tee, I'm going to be an actor. I'm not going to have time to go to producers.
Right.
And like,
so somebody actually saw a deeper value.
and I wasn't ready to like accept that.
Yeah.
I had one long, straight, narrow idea of what success was, because that was what was told to me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a success that I necessarily wanted, but I was like, well, this is, if I do this, this is success.
Yes.
Did a lot of background work in New York. Did a lot of auditioning in New York. I got scammed a couple of times. And
you got to tell me a scam story real quick, because this is the kind of stuff that I feel like when people listen to this podcast.
It wasn't even that exciting. It was just sort of like, you would go to Ripley Greer, which in Pearl Studio, which were the places in Manhattan where like they have all the big auditions for stuff.
Okay.
And I saw like something that was like a call for actors to do like a showcase.
Yeah.
And you paid like $70 to be in it.
Yeah.
And then you would go up in front. And I remember like doing it in a room full of people. And I'm like, hey, there's like a room full of people. Like some of these people are probably like agents and producers and managers.
The one is out there.
And this guy gives me his card. And I'm like, yeah, I got a card. And I look and it said real estate agent. And I'm like, oh, this guy wants to take me on a date. Like, how boring.
Right. It's even more fun.
Oh, this is worse. Like, yeah. So there was a lot of that and like showing up to things and realizing that they weren't looking for, this was not a serious job. They just wanted you to pay. And I paid a lot of times,
Yeah.
I paid photographers because I had people be like, oh, your headshots are bad.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and this is what's holding you back. So go to this photographer that's $600 and he'll take your picture and then, everybody will work with you. Or it was, it was personally costing. It was like, well, your hair's all wrong or your wardrobe sucks.
Right.
Or your body's not good. But if you started working out, I had one time, I had one woman be like, if you got a really good spray tan, you could probably be, a little ethnically ambiguous. And I'm like, I'm white.
lady.
They're also, we're in New York, so like if you want someone I look like what happens when they try to have white actors.
Oh.
When it's like, oh, she's Hispanic, but really she just has a spray tan.
Yeah.
I did it one time and I was like, I look ridiculous.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's kind of crazy because the concept of being something, right, when you're trying to be authentically you and find that space, and then can be just in that scenario be asked to be something.
Oh yeah, I had one agent that I remember so specifically. Euphoria had just come out, and so everybody was like really into Euphoria. And she told me, she's like, "Well, if you chop your hair short and you dye it really dark, you could look like Barbie Ferreira." And I'm like, "No, I can't. You're just looking at someone who's above a size 6 with a bob."
Saying.
And they all look like Barbie Ferreira. I'm like, she's beautiful, but we couldn't even pass for cousins.
So fascinating. Now,
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure, you know what? In a world out there, I'm sure this still happens, but I find after pandemic, right? And as a person of color, I have to tell you, it's kind of funny now because I'm like, oh my God, I don't even think there's commercials without some kind of representation.
Yeah.
But then I can go back to pre-pandemic and clearly remember movies of actors that I'm like,
it is such a different.
so Robert Downey Jr. is playing, and I actually like Tropic Thunder, so
I love
this is
Tropic
no
Thunder, but
shade whatsoever.
Somebody
and he
had
does
to
it well.
sit in a writer's room and go, now guys, hear me
What is
out.
that conversation
Yeah,
like?
I would to be a fly on the wall when they were like, okay, guys, here's the thing. Robert Downey Jr., but he's in blackface, but we're in on the joke because we know that it's bad.
Yeah.
And a room full of people went, oh my God, I love this.
This is a great idea.
And then they had to
everybody.
go to Robert Downey Jr. and be like, hey, Bobby, hear us
This is
out.
what we need you to do.
Listen, it's going to be fine because we're in on the joke. No, today that conversation wouldn't even make it past email.
I just pray that Robert Downey Jr. hears this podcast for whatever reason and just know, A, we love that part, but B, we are fascinated to be flies on the wall and how that came to you.
Yeah, could he to walk us through that one? Because I'd love to hear it.
It's like so easy to explain to me how to be. Anyways, I'm derailing. I'm laughing because it's
it's
explained to me to be
Robert
Iron
Downey
Man. But
Jr.
this is, well, you know what? You bring up some fascinating concepts for me that I see with women that I work with in business, my friends and everything else. And I think sometimes that we forget that this is a thing, not so much in business, but women everywhere. And that is kind of like trying to fit in the box or the mold.
Oh, yeah.
Having that linear, I was the same way. I have a business degree because my parents told me I should get a business degree because they were blue collar workers. I wanted to be on Broadway. It's probably good that I'm here in the business world because I can understand my Broadway friends, but that knowing the business behind being able to monetize yourself, right? And even go beyond the direction, but like, all right, I graduated with a marketing degree. I was like, and what do I do now?
Yeah. And then you're like, well, because the other thing that really is, I think, really destructive about being an actor is that you're always taught that you're one choice away from making it. If you get that haircut, if you get those photos, if you do lose that weight, oh, you could get a series, you could get a movie, you could be in this play.
It's
and
like
you could,
the dream, selling of the dream.
And but then it changes. Yeah. And then suddenly, oh, your haircut's wrong. Or, oh, well, we were picturing this part, but actually there's something else that's wrong with you that we didn't really think about before. And now I think I lived in that mind space for so long that when COVID happened, oh, my life fell apart.
Yeah.
Within the span of like a week because I hadn't been ready to go to New York full time. And I remember this so specifically because this was before masks or anything. And my mom and I had decided we were going to go to Georgia and kind of visit where her family was from. And we were both just like, you know what, we're just going to take a lot of vitamins and we're going to wipe everything and like we're going to be really careful, but we're going to go and do this for her. And I was in the car with her and I got a call from the job that I was going to have moving to New York. And they said, hey, production has shut down everywhere. There's no job that we can give you because production has shut down everywhere. And I went, oh, okay, well, it's 2 weeks. Back then everything was 2 weeks. We're going to flatten the curve and we're all going to go back to work. And then my landlord, who is going to be my landlord, I was going to move to Staten Island because it was affordable. And also I had friends out there. So I was like going to do the working girl thing. We're like, I'm going to get on the ferry every day. And then I'm going to go and like pound the pavement. Oh, that's great. Girl, no. But so she called me and she said, hey, the people that are living in your apartment, I can't kick them out and they can't move out anymore. And I'm like, my mom is kind of watching me out of the side of her eye. And I'm like, okay, well, that's fine too. I haven't renewed my lease in Philadelphia, so I don't have anywhere to live now, but that's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
And then by the time we got back to Pennsylvania, everything was done. Everything was shut down. Everything was, my dad's trying to figure out how he can rotate employees at his job so he doesn't have to fire anybody, but also how he can meet COVID protocol. And my mom goes, well, okay, it's going to take 2 weeks. You're moving out. We'll put all your stuff in a pod and you just move home for 2 weeks. So suddenly, after not living at home since I was like 15, 16, I'm back in my childhood bedroom. And I moved home in March. And then I didn't move to Salem until like July. And I like rebooted, and it was really, really hard. And the whole time I was having a really difficult time because I was so lucky to have a place that I could go.
Yeah.
And I had parents that, were taking me in and supporting me and kind of like walking me through this big life trauma.
Yeah.
And are also going through it themselves. And then the week after I moved out of, the week I moved out of Philly, the riots happened. And I'm like watching on TV being like, are my friends okay? Because I have friends there. Like, am I going to get a call? Like, do I need to figure out how to get somewhere? Am my friend's going to need money? And then a really good friend of mine passed away within the same week. And it was just like, I was just taking hit after hit after hit. And I'm like, I don't know what my future is anymore because I just turned 26. I was like, this is not supposed to happen. There was a point in my life where I thought at 26 I was going to be living in California and I was going to be married and I was going to maybe have a kid and like,
I love those initial dreams. I feel like we all have like that one initial dream. We thought this was going to happen and then we're like, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And then you have to reboot again. And I ended up in Salem because my mom sat me down and she had like a come to Jesus moment with me. And she's like, guess what? New York's not happening because none of your friends can leave their apartment. You want to go into the eye of the storm. And you can't come home because your dad and I are older, so we can't risk you getting us sick. And if you get sick, we don't know anyone that can go get you. And, like, people are dying.
Yeah.
So you want to go into that? No. Like, not happening.
Right.
I'm like, but Mom, this is like, she's like, not happening.
Yeah,
You
sorry.
know? So different time to do a different dream.
Yeah. Yep.
And my aunt lives in Boston. My cousin and his family live in Boston. So she was like, maybe think about moving to New England, where you could like maybe do some new stuff. You could go back to school. Maybe you write. And when I was living at home, I found something that I had written sophomore year of high school that it was kind of a precursor to The Wonderful Lady B. And she was like, you wrote a lot of stuff and you had ideas, but you kept saying like, oh, I don't have time for that because I'm going to be an actor. Oh, I can't take away my focus because at any point you can also get the call. So the other toxic thing is that you don't put down roots. You don't invest in long-term projects.
Right.
Because you're like, well, what if I get the call? The call, like, we need you in New York or London or Shanghai or like wherever you're going. And like, you're going to go be a big star. What are you going to do? Is be like, I'm working on my novel.
Right.
Like,
you got to be able to drop everything and go to the call.
Which is why it's like, I didn't have that many intimate relationships. I didn't have personal relationships. I didn't really have like jobs that I could work up in. I had jobs, but like they were all mostly, service jobs.
Yeah.
Or assistant jobs.
Yeah.
So I wasn't really like building a resume.
Yep.
And I was, floating, so when I moved to Salem, I started all over. I barely had any furniture. My space was so empty for so long. And then everybody was on TikTok. Because there was nothing else to do because we couldn't go outside. And so I was a real snob about it at first. And I was like, this is low theater. I don't have to do this. I'm a professional. I'm classically trained. And then I got on it because I was like, I'm missing a lot of stuff. And that was where Glamour Possum actually like started becoming a thing.
That's awesome.
Because I was watching everybody else. Finally, we all had our own ideas. And you could do them. You didn't have to go to some director. You didn't have to like put it up or enter a festival or, really you didn't have to find other people to be in your stuff because there were no other people.
Yeah. Yep.
So I started doing TikTok and I did the Wonderful Lady B series as a TikTok series initially. And it was me in a bunch of costumes because you only got 1 minute back then.
Right. Okay.
So
it's very important for context because social media has evolved.
Yeah, 1 minute episodes of everything. And then I started doing other character work. And these were characters that I was like, I always wanted to play, I always wanted to do historical, like a period drama.
Yeah.
Well, I always wanted to do maybe something with like a Southern Gothic thing. Well, I always wanted to be a mob wife. Like these are roles that I was never offered. But I was like, oh, wait, what would be really fun to play? Or like, what if I did a character that just doesn't talk and it's all visuals? Or like, what if I did this and it's all movement?
I love this.
And people started responding to that.
Yep.
And I think I would get messages from people, especially with the wonderful Lady B, who everybody was going through it so deeply that I would have these comments that were like 3 pieces apart of someone being like, "Oh, I really relate to this because I've been through abuse," or like I've left a relationship like this before, or I didn't know who I was when I got married, and I've struggled, and also with other characters, it's like, oh, I had a relationship like that with my mom, or like, oh, I have a background of, because I think the other thing about acting is, and humor also especially, you can talk about some really dark stuff with it.
Yeah.
You can talk about, I have a series that takes place in Appalachia, and it's got like witches and cryptids and funny stuff, but it also has, it talks about drug addiction, it talks about child abuse. It's going to be the next book that I'm working on. And, the wonderful Lady B talks about stuff like Catholic guilt, survivor's remorse, eating disorders.
That's how we connected. We started talking about Catholic guilt.
Oh, God.
I'm pretty sure I was like, I have Catholic trauma.
My dad's whole side of the family are Roman Irish Catholic.
Oh,
and
yes.
My grandpa.
The people out there know if they know, you know.
My grandpa, who's a huge inspiration to me, and God rest he's not here anymore. But his favorite saying was that I'm not Catholic, but I still take this into consideration: is mediocrity is no way to honor the Holy Mother.
Oh. That's a good one.
Listen, even if you're not religious, you're like, what?
True. You're like, you know what?
Damn,
There's a bit
Frank,
of knowledge.
good. That's a good one.
My trauma just circulated around not being able to ask questions. You're not allowed to ask,
especially if you're a woman,
huge amount of questions.
And,
yes,
and
nobody gave me that memo before I went to church.
No, because also as a child you ask questions initially just because you're a kid and you don't know like what anything is about, and so then you ask and it's like, don't ever ask that again.
I could just tell and again, I love all forms of religions and spirituality. I look at it from a different context. But yeah, you're so right. I just never looked back at that. And I was just like, well, can you tell me? I just remember how annoyed they would be when they couldn't answer the question. And so from my childlike view, I'm like, do you even know, do you know what you're teaching me? But yes, this is how I think connection points are very important because you get to know how the person is. But it just struck me like that's what we were talking about.
Yeah, there's a lot of different, I can always tell when something's a hit on TikTok when I start getting different demographics of people being like, oh, this happened to me. And we have nothing in common. Like there was one episode I did, I have a character called Sunday O'Riordan who's the daughter of a kind of faded mobster. And she gets kicked out of the kitchen by her mother-in-law in one episode. And like every culture, people are like, oh, I'm Dominican, and like if that happened, I would die. I'm Irish if that happened. Like I'm this, I'm that, I'm Hispanic, I'm black. Like if you get kicked out of the kitchen, you know what that means. Yeah, you are. You have a target on your back. But
so good.
But it was, that's how I know it's a hit, because I'm getting people that I have otherwise nothing in common with being like, I get that. Like I see that. I've maybe never experienced that, but I understand how that feels.
I get it. Oh, I love the layers of Lauren, listeners. I hope you do too, because I'm just going to bring us through an arc here. I love how it started out in the beginning, right? And that you had exposure or were able to engage with a lot of different types of people. You totally brought up the movie Forrest Gump for me, because I think of that house when he was a child and just had a lot of different people coming through. But it gives you, I think, an informed perspective. It's like the world's coming through your door opposed to having to go out and figure out like the different cultures. I love how that then kind of, I feel like in a way that weaves itself into you being able to do content around characters, but also character roles that you haven't got and how that comes in. And something I find I'm talking about in these episodes more and more is the point where that it feels like it starts to connect for people is when they bring their whole life experience into the journey or the business that they're building forward. And something definitely seems to shift there when people are like, all right, I'm just going to go embrace all the pieces of my past, because we've hit a point where somebody told us this is how you do it. This is how you get to success. You get there. If you get there.
Yeah.
I think it's an if, and when you get there, you're like, yeah, this is
not what I wanted.
It's not really
what I thought this would be.
And then you have to do the reboot.
Yeah,
or
and
the
then
reset.
you have to be like, wait, what do I really want?
Yeah.
And how do I get it?
Yeah.
Because that's another experience, because most of the time you hit maybe like where you thought, I should be here by now.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, this doesn't work for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my new favorite thing to say is if something doesn't quite hit, I'm like, that doesn't work for me.
Yeah. I love what you just said. I'm supposed to be here by now. Meet me every Monday morning at my house. And I'm just like, I am pretty sure that I'm supposed to be way further, but there's a method to this madness. I love how you talk about how you found your way into writing and creative storytelling. Is there anything specifically that's inspired you to shape a voice and a brand that's uniquely your own? And I feel like I've heard parts of it. You've figured out the point of like, all right, I have to figure out how to do this, and show up, and I can do it a different way. But are there any other experiences or something that really inspired you to be like, yep, this is who I am. We're showing up as exactly this, and it is what it is.
I think I really had to separate what my idea of success was, especially about being an actor, because nothing happens during COVID. We're all kind of doing our own art and we're making stuff, which leads to some amazing projects that I've watched my friends do because it's like, well, I want to give us something to do. Let's have a reading over a Zoom call. Let's go meet in the park and sing. Let's, do stuff. And I think the industry, when it opened back up, was so different because the rules had all changed and you now had people who had gotten successful on social media who had the cachet to be like, oh, I want to do television, like traditional entertainment. And you had some people who I think are incredibly talented who are not taken seriously. And then I think also we make the wrong people famous sometimes. And we give projects and a lot of budget to people that are just not, they don't know what they're doing or they're not invested or they try to be cool and, they don't really give their all because it's scary to give your all.
Yeah.
And I tried to go back into traditional auditioning and I was older at that point. And that was something that I didn't really think about. And so I went to a casting and I found the head of the project and I was talking to him. And I mentioned that, I said, after he was talking about, well, how was COVID for you? And I said, well, I think it's really good. I'm 29 now. And this force field goes up.
Oh,
it's a man, sorry, but it was a man. And this force field goes up. And it was almost like he was looking at me like a totally different person. And he goes, oh, well, I'm going to direct you to my assistant here. And you're going to keep talking to her. You're great, by the way. And I'm getting the brush off. I'm very aware I'm getting the brush off.
it's like the friend zoning without being
where it's like,
friend
you're
zoned.
you're a great
so
girl.
Nice.
You're such a great girl. You've got so much going for you.
Right.
Anyway, and then he sends over his assistant, who is a child. I mean, like I'm a cranky old lady at this point. I can say it. I'm like, it's a child.
Yep.
And she's in an inappropriate dress for the situation, and it's like one of those crotch hugger LBDs that probably looks like I'm a woman in business, like I'm an office siren.
Yes.
And she sits there looking at me and just like is parroting whatever he told her to say. And she looks at me and she goes, "What do you feel like with your experience you can bring to this industry?" And that was something in me just went, I don't need to be here anymore.
Yeah, this is not the right place.
I don't need to do this.
Yeah.
Because I can go home and I can make something that affects people without having to jump through hoops. Because I have something in me that if other people don't realize it when I'm in the room, they don't get to have it.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
So powerful.
Because I've had people who don't, I put everything also on YouTube because sometimes older people, don't get TikTok. And I have friends of my dad who are like the most, like salt of the earth Midwest guys being like, you got to write for somebody on television. I would watch this. Yeah. Or you gotta get this out there. And I'm like, I'm trying. But, to have people who are coming in and just listening to me just talk. Yeah. Because it's only me. I'm the only one talking and doing the lines and emoting. And to have people who have no connection to social media and have no kind of maybe even respect for it. We're like, these damn influencers. To be like, hey, this is good.
Yes. Yeah.
And to even have strangers be like, I watched you.
Yeah.
And I watched, come up to me and be like, I read your book. It was really good.
Mm-hmm.
And they're, like I said, they're surprised.
Yeah.
Because I think what is on television or is even being published or what is being greenlit is safe. And it's a lot of repetition too, because there's a formula. And now, because they put so much money into these stupid productions, it has to be formulaic and it has to work and you have to make it back. And it doesn't necessarily mean that what you put out there has to be good or tell a story or take you on a journey. It has to meet a quota.
Isn't it the worst? And I'll insert my business knowledge in here because sometimes I have business concepts that I'm like, would this apply to the artists, musicians, everybody in creativity, in the world of creatives? I find that, right, there's not a huge concentration. And I'm thinking about this now because I'm like, oh my God, are dots connecting? Is this systemic? Yes. Hold on. But why aren't there more business education or business degrees behind the, right?
Yeah.
We want creatives to stay in their place of passion. But I'm just always astounded, like, nobody ever helped you monetize.
But somebody's got to help. Yeah.
Yes.
Nobody's, no.
And so that is a part that I'm pointing out in the system that's flawed, because what I actually find very interesting is when you go through the process of everything that's like, I don't need to do this anymore. I don't need to, like, I can figure out how to do it my way. And then when people see that, there's a couple of things in here. One, I always believe, this is for any business, but you're giving me great insight to what I'm seeing now with independent artists and actors and actresses and like how they're moving differently. And I like it because they're monetizing themselves instead of staying with the traditional box. But I have this theory in business. When you put the profit first, the people suffer.
Yeah.
Depending on who the people are. So the people can be your employees. They can be the people that are on the receiving end of the thing. But when you put the profit first and you have to fit it into the formula and everything has to be safe because we have to please everybody.
Then what are you making that's good or different or is required by your audience?
Yeah, and it's like painful to watch. You can see it when you see it. And I feel like the more into the industry you are, you're just like, just like this part. But I think what is unique for you and for creatives, like us and everything, is bringing the whole life experience in, but just the authenticity. I am going to make things that people resonate with. They feel it makes them feel something. And I think the green flag for success is when you have the person that has no skin in the game. They don't like social media. They know a piece of you.
Yeah.
But for them to see that and say, oh, this is really good, you should be doing something with this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because when you put humans in the center of things, you feel things and things happen. Somebody else was saying this, when you are just in this space, you can't play it safe in creativity.
No.
And you have to say the thing that people don't say.
Yeah.
You were making a point about comedy earlier too, and I love this, or humor and things that come from dark places. I love comedy.
Yeah.
I swear I could be a comedian. Not because I've lived in the dark spaces, but it's like, where else can you bring that kind of depth to a place where you actually need a little bit of levity too? So just the connections you're making and all that. But it brings me always back to this like rule I tell people in business. Look, if you are trying to make this cookie cutter or salt, do it in a way where you just actually care about the money piece before the people piece or before the art even. It's not going to be great. Make it easier for all of us that are just trying to do the unique thing so we can stand out above the rest.
No, I completely agree. Yeah.
So good. I want to dive a little bit deeper. I love to talk about the why. Mm-hmm. And again, I told you I was going to love this conversation. I feel like we're going to need a 90-minute segment one of these days. But diving into the why is it so important to you to bring the humor, the honesty, especially the honesty, right? The imagination into your work. Is there an impact, a bigger impact that you are hoping to create for anyone who engages with your writing and your brand of creativity?
I think right now, everybody is so divided over stuff culturally.
Mhm.
And I think that a good story can bring people together because you're not connecting over the stuff in it that divides you from other people. It's that connection of, oh, I love this aspect. I love historical fiction. I love horror. I love fantasy. I love, a good movie indoors because there's something in it that, regardless of generation or background, people love Star Wars. Why?
Right.
Because we all kind of dream about a life it's this big world that's beyond us, and there's all of these. It's about hope too, and everybody wants to be the good guy, and it's the same with Indiana Jones. We all want to go on an adventure. Yeah. The Mummy, we all want to go on an adventure. We all want to fall in love. Yeah. We all want to save the day. And in our own different ways, you have your different idea of what that looks like for you. Yep. But you watch that or you read that and you go, that's it. That's that human thing. Yeah. And I think that if you have nothing else in common and you both love something, like if you both love The Mummy, yeah. And it's like, oh man, I love the fighting. Oh, but I love Brandon Fraser, and like, the scene where he pops out of the thing and he's still juicy, and everybody's like, oh my god, I love that scene, and that's what I want, because I feel like if you can get people to laugh, this is what I've learned. In order to laugh, you have to breathe. Yes, you have to inhale and exhale, and I feel like a lot of people don't breathe enough. No, and you'd be amazed at how many people, after they have a good laugh or they cry, go.
Oh, it's so cathartic.
It is.
That deep breath.
And you can think clearly, and you have kind of a broader idea of what's going on around you. And then you can look at people and you look around and realize you've been laughing with people that you, again, have nothing in common with. Right. And that's how I know still with all of my projects, if one is good, if I get a bunch of different people, like the one that I'm going to be working on next, Cornelia Joy, it's Southern Gothic. It takes place in Appalachia. I have old men in their 60s who are like retired veterans who are like, I laugh so hard when I hear that. And like, and then I have little gay kids who are maybe still in high school being like, I feel like this person that you play is like a mom, and I feel really safe. Yeah. And those are two people that have totally different experiences with what I do, but they both love it for different reasons. Yeah. Or, the old guy's like, oh, I grew up in an area like that, and it reminds me of home, and like maybe
so many pieces and
it
layers
all comes
that you
together.
weave in.
And it also, I talked about it. It talks about some really dark topics, and maybe that person hears something I said and was like, oh, well, I had a really bad childhood, but this character has like a good life. Yeah. And she's married and she's had a kid, or like, that character in Cornelia Joy she's a teen mom. And I think that happens to a lot of women. And I think that sometimes that's happening to you. And, she's found another guy who loves her, and she has kids and a good life, and she's got a job, and, she's still a witch. Yep. And she's like, oh, well, she did it. Like, everything's okay. Yeah. And, if you a lot of Appalachia's in poverty. There's a lot of drug addiction. There's some tragedy in that series, but also it's about a community of people that are so drastically different, and they all support each other because, again, there's a bigger force at hand that's like the big bad evil. Yep. And you put aside your differences and you all come together and you fight the shadow thing or whatever, or the vampires that are coming in, and you all realize that you all want the same thing, which is a community. Yeah. And that's my hope ultimately, is like make you laugh and make you cry, but you can talk about something that you have in common with someone who maybe has politically, culturally, financially so different from you, but you both talk about the same thing, or you're both at like a book event and you're like, I would never be in the same room with you, but
these things that give us a common like place,
especially when everybody's telling you, no, we're all different and this is that, and you will never get
we'll
never get along.
That's why my views on religion, okay, it's kind of all the same. Bear with me. The story is pretty much the same. The characters are like interchangeable in my mind, but it is that thing of like, there's something that pulls us all together, and it's actually very simple. But as humans, I think we make it complicated, or maybe it's designed to be that way. So I love how you say that. I also see a connection between like escapism and authenticity, right? Because you said two very important things. It's like we want to see ourselves
Yeah.
in the thing or the people, whether it's location, the person, whatever it is. We want to see ourselves.
Yeah.
We know we're not alone. And there's a part of us that's just like, I want to be part of a bigger thing,
Yeah.
an adventure, a community, and things like that. So I think that is beautiful. I can see why they don't do enough business classes for creatives and artists, because the power we hold is pretty powerful. And if you can start to break
Well, if
that
we
down
knew what
and
we
really
were doing, then we
teach
could
it.
ask for appropriate rates and
That
like
too.
input
That
and
too.
all that other stuff where they're like, wait a minute
That
now.
too. I have a passion about helping young entrepreneurs because they're content creators now. I taught marketing, entrepreneurship, and business, different classes, literally different classes and different classes. But the one thing it was the day that one of the students came up and said, well, I want to, like, my business, I want to stream Twitch all day. And I was just like, okay, hey, I don't know what Twitch is, so I gotta get hip. Jeez. Every time I learned something new, I gave up TikTok because I thought it was going by the way of Vine. And I'm so mad because I asked a friend, like, do you think I should be on TikTok?
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't know. I think it's going to go the way of Vine. And then after pandemic, I said, do you know that I could have had a following? I don't even want followers like that, but I'm just like, do you know I could have had a following?
I feel like a contender. Yeah.
I feel like I missed out. And so now I see it through the people, but young people younger than you. I deal with the high school students, right? So it's kind of weird saying
It's
to you,
like the
people
wild, no,
half
it's
your
the Wild
age.
West out there. I have a younger fan base too.
They're
But
content creators,
Yeah.
and they're already figuring it out. So I'm just like, why aren't we giving them this necessary information so that they can go do what they want to do? Why
listen,
are we
you
still
can make
telling people to be
anything work
doctors
if
and
you
lawyers?
have a plan. You know, you listen. You know,
That's it.
I was my dad and my grandpa were, give me a spreadsheet, give me a plan.
Yeah.
You want to do this? Like, okay, how's it going to work?
Yeah.
What do you think your costs are going to be? How do you think? How long do you think it's going to take? And streaming on Twitch, people can do really well on Twitch.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, so you want to do that? What's your plan?
That's the part we went over. I said, look, I'm not here to
And you
stop
got to have
to
an
be
answer.
anything you want to be.
No, but you got to have A, B, C. Like,
Yep.
you know?
Yep. And having the strategy to really put behind
Yeah.
the creativity, the art, or whatever you're doing. I appreciate you so much. I am pretty sure we will have more conversations in the future.
I hope so.
But that's it, my friends. That is it for this episode of Creativity Connects. Huge, huge thank you to my friend Lauren Carter Reilly for sharing not only what she does, but who she uniquely is. Thank you for reminding us how creativity and storytelling opens up spaces for connection, for imagination, more important than ever, for truth, right? Just a reminder to our folks listening, this podcast is brought to you by Creative Collective, a business support program providing modern resources, strategy, and connections for small businesses and creators. A thing I love to leave people with is just because you're building something meaningful, that doesn't mean that you should be building it alone. So find your community. If you want to learn more about Lauren and Glamour Possum, check the show notes. We're dropping the links and ways for you to connect. If something in our conversation today resonated with you, as always, I encourage you to share that with someone who needs to hear it. That could be the thing that changes everything for them. Because these stories, they're really meant to not only move us, but connect us all together, collectively. So until next time, my friends, keep building, keep connecting, keep showing up as you are, as who you are. Take up space. I am Mikki Wilson, your favorite dot connector. And until our next episode, this is Creativity Connects.